The war had been long and bloody. 3 years of fighting across distant stars had turned Ho into something he barely recognized. His hands, once soft from his simple life on Earth, were now rough, and his eyes, once full of wonder at the universe, now carried shadows that would never fully leave. He stood in the great hall of Station Omega, surrounded by officers and politicians who smiled too wide and spoke too loud. They called him a hero. They said he had turned the tide against the Empire in the Battle of Crimson Nebula. They gave him medals that felt heavy on his chest. Ho did not feel like a hero. He felt tired. Admiral walked toward him with a smile that made Ho uncomfortable. The old man had never smiled at anyone unless he wanted something. "Lieutenant Ho," the Admiral said, his voice booming across the hall, "the Galactic Coalition wishes to honor you with a special gift." Ho straightened his back. "Sir, the medals are more than enough." "Nonsense," Admiral waved his hand. "You saved 300 ships. You deserve something memorable." The doors at the far end of the hall opened. 2 guards walked in, and between them were 2 figures that made the entire room go silent. They were. Ho had fought their kind for years. He knew their features well. Their skin was pale blue, almost silver in certain light. Their ears were long and pointed. Their eyes were large and dark like pools of midnight water. They were tall and thin, built for grace rather than strength. But these 2 were different from the soldiers he had faced in battle. They wore torn dresses that had once been beautiful. Their wrists were bound with energy chains that glowed soft purple. Their faces were bruised and their eyes were empty. They were young, perhaps the human equivalent of 20 years old, and they were clearly sisters. "May I present Princess Lyra and Princess Neva of the Empire," Admiral announced proudly. "Captured during the fall of their home world. They are yours now, Lieutenant." The room erupted in applause. Ho felt his stomach turn. "Mine?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "War prizes," the Admiral explained. "The daughters of Emperor himself. They hold great symbolic value. Do with them as you wish." Ho looked at the 2 princesses. The taller one, who he assumed was Lyra, stared back at him with hatred burning in her dark eyes. The shorter one, Neva, kept her gaze on the floor. Her hands were shaking. They expected him to hurt them. They expected cruelty and pain. That was what they had been told about humans. That was what their empire had taught them. Savages, monsters, beasts who knew nothing but violence. Ho walked toward them slowly. The guards pushed the princesses forward, forcing them to their knees before him. "Your gift, sir," one guard said with a grin. "Would you like us to prepare them for transport to your quarters?" Ho looked down at the 2 sisters. Lyra raised her chin defiantly, ready to face whatever horror awaited her. Neva squeezed her eyes shut, tears falling silently down her cheeks. "Remove their chains," Ho said. The room went quiet. Admiral stepped forward. "Lieutenant, I don't think you understand. These are enemy royalty. They could be dangerous." "I said remove their chains." His voice was calm but firm. It was the voice he used in battle, the voice that made soldiers follow him without question. The guards looked at each other uncertainly, then at the Admiral, nodded slowly, his smile fading. The chains clicked open and fell to the floor. Lyra and Neva both looked up at Ho with confusion. He knelt down so his eyes were level with theirs. "Can you stand?" he asked gently. Neither sister moved. They did not understand what was happening. "I am not going to hurt you," Ho said. "I promise." Lyra spoke for the first time. Her voice was rough, as if she had not used it in days. "Humans do not keep promises." "Some do," Ho replied. He stood and offered his hand to Neva. She flinched away from him. He did not push. He simply waited. After a long moment, Neva slowly reached out and took his hand. He helped her to her feet, then offered the same to Lyra. The older princess ignored his hand and stood on her own, but she did not attack him. She watched him like a hawk watching a snake. Admiral approached with a frown. "Lieutenant, these prisoners need to be controlled. If word gets out that you're treating them with kindness—" "Then word gets out," Ho interrupted. "They were given to me, yes. That means they are my responsibility now. I will handle them my way." The Admiral's face turned red, but he said nothing. Ho was too valuable to punish over something like this. The war might be ending, but tensions remained. They needed their heroes. Ho turned back to the princesses. "When was the last time you ate?" Neither answered. "Follow me," he said. "There is a dining area on the lower deck. The food is not great, but it is warm." He began walking toward the door. After a moment of hesitation, Lyra and Neva followed. They had nowhere else to go. The dining area was nearly empty at this hour. Ho led the sisters to a corner table away from prying eyes. He ordered 3 meals from the food dispenser and placed them on the table. "Eat," he said simply. Neva looked at the food with longing, but she did not touch it. Lyra pushed the tray away. "We will not eat poison," Lyra said coldly. Ho picked up his own fork and took a large bite of the meat substitute. He chewed slowly, then swallowed. Not poison, just bad cooking. Neva let out a small sound that might have been a laugh. She quickly covered her mouth, as if she had done something wrong. Ho smiled at her. It was a tired smile, but genuine. "It is okay to laugh. You are not prisoners anymore." "Then what are we?" Lyra demanded. "Slaves, toys, what game are you playing, human?" Ho set down his fork. He looked at Lyra with those weary eyes that had seen too much death. "I am not playing any game. I have spent 3 years fighting your people. I have killed more than I can count. And I am tired of it. I am tired of hatred and pain and death." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "You are princesses. You have value as hostages, as bargaining tools, as symbols. Everyone in this coalition sees you as things to be used. But I look at you, and I see 2 young women who are scared and alone and far from home. I see people, and I will not treat people like property." Lyra stared at him for a long time. Her dark eyes searched his face for lies, for hidden cruelty. She found nothing but exhaustion and sincerity. "You are strange," she finally said. "So I have been told." Neva slowly pulled the food tray closer. She picked up the fork with trembling hands and took a small bite. Her eyes widened. "It is not terrible," she admitted quietly. "High praise," Ho said with another tired smile. Lyra watched her sister eat. Something in her expression softened, just slightly. She did not touch her own food yet, but she no longer pushed it away. After the meal, Ho led them through the station to his personal quarters. It was a small apartment, nothing fancy. A bedroom, a bathroom, and a living area with a couch and some chairs. "You can have the bedroom," he said, pointing to the door. "I will sleep on the couch." Lyra shook her head. "This is a trick. You want us to let our guard down." "There is no trick." Ho pulled a blanket from a storage cabinet and tossed it onto the couch. "The door locks from the inside. If it makes you feel safer, lock it. I will not try to enter." Neva touched her sister's arm. "Lyra, I am tired, please." The older princess looked at her sister's exhausted face. Dark circles hung under Neva's eyes. Her body swayed slightly from fatigue. They had not slept properly in weeks, not since their capture. "Fine," Lyra said sharply, "but I will be watching the door all night." "Do as you wish," Ho replied. He sat down on the couch and began removing his boots. "Good night, princesses." The sisters walked into the bedroom. Lyra examined every corner, every possible hiding spot. She checked for hidden cameras, for weapons, for traps. She found nothing. The room was simple and clean. The bed was large enough for both of them. Fresh sheets were folded neatly on a shelf. "I do not understand him," Lyra whispered to her sister. Neva sat on the edge of the bed. "Maybe he is telling the truth. Maybe he is different." "No human is different. They are all monsters," Father said. "Father is dead," Neva interrupted softly. "Our home is gone. Our people are scattered. Everything Father told us about humans was meant to make us hate them. Maybe he was wrong about some things." Lyra wanted to argue, but she had no energy left. She sat beside her sister and held her hand. "We will see," Lyra said. "If he tries anything, I will kill him with my bare hands." "I know you will." They did not sleep that night. Lyra sat against the door, listening for any sound. Neva lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. In the living room, Ho did not sleep either. He lay on the couch, thinking about the two young women in his bedroom. He had saved them from the Coalition's darker purposes. Men like Admiral would have used them in terrible ways. But what now? He could not keep them hidden forever. He could not give them back their home or their family. He could not undo the war. All he could do was treat them with the dignity they deserved, and hope that somehow it would be enough. Outside the window, stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere among them, the remains of the Empire drifted in silence. Somewhere, humans celebrated their victory. And in a small apartment on Station Omega, a tired soldier and two frightened princesses began a journey that none of them expected. It would not be easy. Trust was not given freely. Wounds did not heal overnight. But it was a beginning. 3 days passed on Station Omega, 3 days of silence and suspicion. Lyra watched the human called Ho like he was a bomb waiting to explode. She noted everything he did, when he woke up, when he ate, when he left the apartment, and when he returned. She looked for patterns, for weaknesses, for any sign of the monster she knew he must be hiding inside. She found nothing. Every morning, Ho would knock softly on the bedroom door. He never tried to open it. He would simply say, "Breakfast is ready when you want it," and then walk away. The food was always warm. The portions were always generous. He never ate until they had taken their share first. At first, Lyra refused to eat at all. She told herself it was poison or drugs or some trick she could not see. But Neva was weak. Her younger sister needed food to survive. So Lyra tested small bites, waited hours for sickness to come, and finally allowed Neva to eat when nothing happened. "He is patient," Lyra muttered on the third night. "He is waiting for us to trust him, then he will strike." Neva sat by the window, watching ships come and go from the station's docking bays. Or perhaps he is just kind. There is no such thing as a kind human. How do you know? Have you ever met one before the war? Lyra had no answer. Everything she knew about humans came from her father's teachings and the propaganda of the Empire. Humans were savage creatures from a savage world. They bred like insects and fought like demons. They had no culture, no honor, no souls. But the humans sleeping on the couch outside their door did not match those stories. On the fourth morning, something different happened. Ho knocked on the door as usual, but this time his voice sounded troubled. "I have to go to a meeting. I will be gone for several hours. There is food in the storage unit. Please eat." Lyra pressed her ear against the door, listening to his footsteps fade away. When she heard the main door open and close, she waited another 10 minutes before slowly opening the bedroom door. The apartment was empty. She stepped out carefully, her eyes scanning every shadow. Nothing. The human was truly gone. "Neva," she whispered, "come, we need to search this place." The sisters spent the next hour examining every corner of the apartment. They found clothes, some personal items, a few books in a language they could not read. They found medals in a drawer, the same ones Ho had received at the ceremony. He had not displayed them proudly. He had hidden them away like shameful secrets. In another drawer they found photographs, printed on real paper, not displayed on screens. The images showed Ho as a younger man, smiling widely. He stood with an older woman who shared his eyes. His mother, perhaps. Another photo showed him with friends, laughing at some joke lost to time. "He looks so different," Neva said softly. "So happy." War changes people, Lyra replied. She did not know why she said it. She did not want to understand this human. They found one more thing hidden beneath the photographs. A small journal, handwritten. Lyra opened it and began to read. The entries were scattered, dated over the past 3 years. Most were short, just a few lines. Killed 12 today. They were young, younger than me, could not sleep. Dreams are getting worse. I see their faces. The ones I killed. They look at me and ask why. What are we fighting for? I do not remember anymore. I just follow orders. That is all I am now. A weapon that follows orders. Sometimes I think about ending it. Then I think about my mother. She is waiting for me to come home. I cannot leave her alone. Neva took the journal from her sister's hands. Lyra, stop. This is private. He killed our people. Lyra's voice was hard, but her hands were shaking. He admits it right here, 12 in one day. And it broke him. Neva pointed to the last entry. Look, he wanted to die. The war hurt him too. Lyra snatched the journal back and threw it into the drawer. I do not care. He is the enemy. He will always be the enemy. But her voice lacked conviction. Something had shifted inside her, something she refused to name. They returned to the bedroom before Ho came back. When they heard the main door open hours later, they pretended they had not moved all day. That evening, Ho cooked something different. The smell drifted through the apartment, warm and rich. It was actual food, not the processed meals from the dispenser. Neva's stomach growled loudly. Lyra shot her a look. I cannot help it, Neva whispered. I am hungry. A gentle knock came at the door. I made real food tonight, a recipe from my home country. It is called a stew. I thought you might be tired of the station food. Neither sister answered. I will leave your portions on the table, Ho continued. Take your time. Footsteps moved away, then silence. Neva looked at her sister pleadingly. Lyra sighed and opened the door. The stew sat in 2 bowls on the table. Steam rose from the surface. Beside the bowls were small portions of rice and some pickled vegetables. Ho sat on the couch, eating from his own bowl. He looked up when they emerged but said nothing. He simply returned to his meal. Lyra picked up a bowl and sniffed it carefully. The smell was unfamiliar but not unpleasant. She took a small sip of the broth. Heat spread through her chest. The flavor was complex, spicy and savory and somehow comforting. She took another sip, larger this time. This is, she struggled to find the word, acceptable. The corner of Ho's mouth twitched, high praise. Neva was less restrained. She ate quickly, making small sounds of pleasure with each bite. This is wonderful. What is in it? Vegetables, tofu, some protein. Nothing fancy, Ho shrugged. My mother taught me to cook. She said a man who cannot feed himself is only half a man. Your mother sounds wise, Neva said. Lyra shot her a warning look, but Neva ignored her. She is, Ho agreed. I have not seen her in 4 years. When the war ends, I will go home and cook for her instead. She has cooked for me my whole life. It is time I returned the favor. An uncomfortable silence fell. The war had ended with the destruction of the empire was finished. Lyra and Neva had no home to return to, no mother waiting for them. Ho seemed to realize his mistake. I am sorry, that was thoughtless of me. Do not apologize, Lyra said coldly. Your people won, enjoy your victory. She expected him to argue or defend himself. Instead, he simply nodded. There is no joy in victory, he said quietly. Only relief that the dying is over. I take no pleasure in what happened to your world. I wish it could have been different. Wishes mean nothing. I know. They finished the meal in silence. When they were done, Neva surprised everyone by carrying the empty bowls to the cleaning station. Thank you for the food, she said to Ho. It was the best meal I have had in months. Ho looked at her with something like gratitude. You are welcome. Lyra grabbed her sister's arm and pulled her back toward the bedroom, but at the door she paused. Human, she called without turning around. Yes. The meeting today, what was it about? Ho hesitated before answering. Admiral wants a report on you. He wants to know if you have revealed any useful information about the military. Lyra tensed. And what did you tell him? I told him you have revealed nothing, which is true. I have not asked you any questions. He will not accept that forever. No, he will not. Ho's voice was tired. But I will handle him. You do not need to worry. Lyra finally turned to look at him. Why do you protect us? What do you want from us? Ho met her gaze steadily. I want nothing from you. I protect you because it is right. Because someone should have protected the young soldiers I killed. Because war makes monsters of us all, and I am trying very hard not to be a monster anymore. He turned away and began cleaning the cooking pot. Lyra stood frozen for a long moment. Then she walked into the bedroom and closed the door. That night, for the first time, she did not sit against the door. She lay on the bed beside her sister and stared at the ceiling. He confuses me, she admitted in the darkness. Neva rolled over to face her. Maybe that is good. Maybe confusion is the first step toward understanding. I do not want to understand him. I want to hate him. It is easier to hate. Easier, yes, but is it right? Lyra had no answer. In the living room, Ho lay on the couch, thinking the same thoughts he had thought every night since the war began. He wondered if the things he had done could ever be forgiven. He wondered if the lives he had taken would ever stop haunting him. And now he wondered about the two princesses sleeping in his bedroom. They were victims of the same war that had broken him. Different sides, same wounds. Perhaps in some strange way they could heal together. Or perhaps they would destroy each other. Only time would tell. The station hummed quietly around them, carrying thousands of souls through the void between stars. Somewhere, politicians argued about borders and treaties. Somewhere, families mourned their dead. And in a small apartment on the residential deck, 3 broken people slowly began to see each other as something other than enemies. It was not trust, not yet, but it was something. A crack in the wall, a tiny light in the darkness. The beginning of change. 2 weeks had passed since the princesses came into Ho's life. The routine had become almost comfortable. Meals together, quiet conversations, careful distance. Lyra still watched him with suspicious eyes, but the hatred had faded into something more like caution. Neva had grown bolder, sometimes asking questions about human culture and traditions. But peace, Ho knew, never lasted. The summons came on a gray morning, a formal message on his communication device, stamped with the seal of high command. He was ordered to report to Admiral's office immediately. He told the sisters he would be back in a few hours. Lyra said nothing. Neva wished him good luck. The Admiral's office was large and cold. Sat behind a massive desk made of real wood, a luxury that cost more than most soldiers earned in a lifetime. 2 other officers stood at his sides, their faces hard and unfriendly. Lieutenant Ho began without pleasantries. We need to discuss your prisoners. They are not prisoners, Ho corrected. They were given to me. They are my responsibility. Semantics, waved his hand dismissively. The point is, they are valuable assets. The daughters of Emperor hold information that could save thousands of human lives. Remaining loyalists are gathering in the outer systems. They plan to continue the war. Ho kept his face neutral. I was not aware of any loyalist threat. That is because you have been too busy playing house. Leaned forward, his eyes sharp. Intelligence believes the princesses know the locations of hidden military bases. They know codes, defensive systems, fleet positions. We need that information. Have you asked them? We are asking you to ask them. You have built some kind of rapport with them. Use it. Ho felt his jaw tighten. You want me to pretend to be their friend so I can extract military secrets. I want you to be a soldier, snapped. The war is not over, Lieutenant. Not while rebels threaten our colonies. Those two women in your apartment can help us end this threat permanently. Are you going to let innocent humans die to protect enemy royalty? The words were designed to hurt, to guilt. Ho had heard similar arguments 1,000 times during the war. Kill this enemy to save those friends. Bomb this city to protect that colony. Sacrifice these lives to preserve those others. It was always the same. Someone else deciding who deserved to live and die. The princesses are not soldiers, Ho said slowly. They are young women who lost their father, their home, everything they knew. They have been imprisoned, beaten, and sold like property. They have suffered enough. Suffered? One of the other officers laughed harshly. Their people killed hundreds of thousands of humans. Their father ordered the destruction of entire colonies. They do not deserve your sympathy. They did not give those orders. They are not their father. They are still the enemy. Ho looked at the three men before him. He saw what they were, politicians in military uniforms, men who had never held a dying soldier in their arms, men who signed death orders from comfortable offices and slept peacefully at night. No, he said. The word hung in the air like a stone. Admiral's face turned red. Excuse me. No, I will not interrogate them. I will not betray whatever small trust they have given me. If you want information from them, find another way. You are refusing a direct order. I am refusing to torture traumatized prisoners for information they may not even have. Stood up slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. You are making a very serious mistake, Lieutenant. Your heroic reputation will not protect you forever. There are consequences for disobedience. I know. Ho did not look away. Court-martial me if you want, throw me in prison. I have done terrible things in this war. Maybe I deserve punishment, but I will not add this sin to my list. The tension in the room was suffocating. The two officers reached for their sidearms, but raised a hand to stop them. That will not be necessary, the Admiral said. His voice had gone cold and quiet, which was somehow more frightening than his anger. You have 1 week, Lieutenant. Bring me useful information, or I will have those prisoners transferred to a proper interrogation facility. Do you understand what that means? Ho understood perfectly. The Coalition's interrogation facilities were places of nightmares. People went in and never came out the same. 1 week, repeated, dismissed. Ho left the office without another word. His hands were shaking with anger as he walked through the station corridors. He wanted to hit something. He wanted to scream. He wanted to take the princesses and run far away from this place. But where would they go? The Coalition controlled every human station and colony. The Empire was destroyed. There was nowhere in the galaxy that would shelter them. He returned to his apartment in a dark mood. When he opened the door, he found Lyra standing in the middle of the living room, her arms crossed. We heard everything, she said flatly. Ho froze. What? Neva emerged from behind her sister. The communication device on the table. You forgot to turn it off before you left. Your conversation with the Admiral came through. Ho's blood went cold. He looked at the device sitting innocently on the table. He had been in such a hurry to answer the summons that he had not checked it properly. You heard all of it. All of it, Lyra confirmed. The Admiral wants you to interrogate us. The Coalition wants military information. You refused. She paused, her expression unreadable. Why? I told you before, I will not treat you like property. No, that is not enough. Lyra stepped closer, her dark eyes searching his face. You risked your career, your freedom, possibly your life for us, for the daughters of your enemy. Why? Ho sat down heavily on the couch. He ran his hands through his hair, suddenly feeling every year of the war weighing on his shoulders. Because I am tired, he said honestly. I am tired of hurting people. I am tired of being told that cruelty is necessary. I am tired of looking in the mirror and hating what I see. He looked up at Lyra. The Admiral is right about one thing. I have killed many. I have done things that will haunt me forever, but I can choose what I do now. I can choose to be something different. And if protecting you is the one good thing I do in this life, then maybe it will be enough to balance the scales. Just a little. Lyra stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she sat down on the couch beside him. It was the first time she had willingly come close to him. "You are a fool," she said quietly. "Probably. The Admiral will destroy you. Probably. We are not worth sacrificing everything for." Ho turned to look at her. "I think you are. I think every life has value, even mine, even yours, especially yours." Neva sat down on his other side. Tears glistened in her eyes. "No one has ever protected us before, not like this. Even in the palace we were just symbols, tools for our father's propaganda. No one asked what we wanted." "What do you want?" Ho asked gently. Neva thought for a moment. "I want to stop being afraid. I want to wake up one day and not wonder if it will be my last. I want to live." Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "I want the same." Ho nodded slowly. "Then we will find a way, together. I do not know how yet, but we will figure something out." "The Admiral gave you 1 week," Lyra reminded him. "Then we have 1 week to plan." For the first time since they met, Lyra smiled. It was small and sad, but it was real. "You really are a fool, human." "Ho," he corrected. "My name is Ho." She hesitated, then nodded. "Ho." It was the first time she had used his name. Outside the window, the stars continued their endless dance. The universe did not care about their small struggles, their tiny hopes, but sometimes that was what made those hopes so precious. They had 1 week, 1 week to find a way out of an impossible situation. But for the first time they would face it together, not as enemies, not as prisoners and captors, but as something new, something that had no name yet. Something that felt dangerously like family. The storm was coming. Admiral would not accept defiance. The coalition would demand its pound of flesh. But for now, in this moment, 3 wounded souls sat together in the darkness and dared to imagine a different future. It was a small rebellion. But all rebellions start small. The illness came without warning. On the 5th day of their deadline, Ho woke to the sound of coughing from the bedroom. It was not the gentle cough of a tickled throat. It was deep, wet, and painful. He knocked on the door. "Is everything all right?" No answer came, only more coughing followed by a soft moan. He opened the door without waiting for permission. Neva lay on the bed, her body curled into a tight ball. Her skin, normally pale blue, had turned almost gray. Sweat covered her forehead. Her breathing came in shallow, ragged gasps. Lyra sat beside her, holding her sister's hand. When she looked up at Ho, there was fear in her eyes, real, raw fear. "She woke up like this," Lyra said, her voice cracked. "I do not know what is wrong. This should not happen. Do not get sick easily." Ho moved quickly to the bedside. He placed his hand on Neva's forehead. She was burning with fever. "How long has she been like this?" "A few hours. It started as a small cough last night. I thought it was nothing." Lyra's hands were shaking. "Please, please help her." It was the first time she had ever asked him for anything. Ho's mind raced. The station had medical facilities, but taking Neva there would mean exposing her to coalition doctors. They would ask questions. They might report to Admiral. The Admiral might use this opportunity to separate the sisters. But if he did nothing, Neva could die. "Stay here," he said. "I will find a doctor I trust." He left the apartment and moved through the station corridors as quickly as he could without running. There was one person who might help. A medic named Jinhu had served under Ho during the war. They had saved each other's lives more than once. He found Jin in the lower medical bay, organizing supplies. The medic was a short man with kind eyes and steady hands. "Ho," Jin looked surprised. What are you doing down here? I need your help quietly, no records. Jin's expression became serious. What kind of help? Medical, it is for one of the princesses. She is sick, very sick. The medic was silent for a moment, then he nodded. Let me get my kit. They returned to the apartment together. Jin examined Neva while Lyra watched every movement with intense focus. Ho stood by the door, ready to protect them if anyone came. After several minutes, Jin sat back with a grim expression. It is called transition sickness, he said. I have seen it in other prisoners. Their bodies are designed for a specific environment. The temperature, the air composition, the light levels on worlds are all different from human stations. Can you cure it? Lyra demanded. Not cure, but treat. Her body needs time to adjust. I can give her medication to manage the symptoms. She needs rest, proper nutrition, and warmth. Most importantly, she needs to feel safe. Stress makes the condition worse. He pulled several small vials from his kit and prepared an injection. This will help with the fever and the breathing. I will leave more doses for the next few days. Give her one every 8 hours. Neva barely reacted when the needle entered her arm. She was too weak. Jin packed his kit and stood. He looked at Ho with worried eyes. You know you are walking a dangerous path. I know. If finds out I helped them. He will not, I promise. Jin sighed. You always were too stubborn for your own good. Take care of them, and take care of yourself. After the medic left, Ho pulled a chair beside Neva's bed. I will stay with her. You should rest. Lyra shook her head. I am not leaving her. Then we will both stay. They sat on opposite sides of the bed, watching Neva's chest rise and fall with each labored breath. The night grew dark outside the window. The station lights dimmed automatically. Tell me about her, Ho said softly, when she was young. Lyra looked at him strangely. Why? Because she needs to hear voices she loves. It might help her fight. Lyra hesitated, then began to speak. She was always the gentle one. In the palace, everyone was cruel, politics and schemes and betrayal. But Neva, she just wanted to tend her garden. She had a small space on the roof where she grew flowers, rare ones from across the empire. She could name every species, tell you where it came from, how to care for it. Her voice softened with memory. When our mother died, Neva was the one who comforted me. I was the older sister. I should have been strong, but I was angry, so angry at everything. Neva held my hand and told me that tears were not weakness. That morning was love continuing even after death. Tears slipped down Lyra's cheeks. She did not wipe them away. She is the best person I know, the only good thing left in my life. If she dies, she could not finish the sentence. She will not die, Ho said firmly. I will not let her. He reached across the bed and took Lyra's hand. She tensed at first, then slowly relaxed. Her fingers wrapped around his, holding tight. They stayed like that through the night. Ho changed the cold cloths on Neva's forehead. Lyra whispered stories and songs from their childhood. Sometimes Neva stirred, mumbling words in her native language. Sometimes she went still, and they both held their breath until she moved again. By morning, the fever had not broken. By the second morning, Neva's breathing had grown worse. Ho had not slept in 2 days. His eyes burned with exhaustion. But every time he thought about resting, he looked at Lyra's desperate face and found new strength. On the third morning, something changed. Ho woke from a brief doze to find Lyra asleep in her chair, her head resting on the edge of the bed, and Neva was looking at him. Her eyes were clear. Her skin had regained some of its blue color. Her breathing was deeper, steadier. Water, she whispered. Ho moved quickly, pouring a glass and holding it to her lips. She drank slowly, then sank back against the pillows. You stayed, she said weakly. Both of you, the whole time. Of course. Neva's eyes moved to her sleeping sister. A tender smile crossed her face. She never leaves me. even when she should, even when it hurts her. She loves you. I know, Neva turned back to Ho. And you, why did you stay? He thought about the question. There were many answers he could give: duty, guilt, responsibility, but none of them felt true enough. Because you needed someone too, he finally said. And because I think I am starting to care about what happens to you, both of you. Neva studied his face for a long moment. Then she reached out and touched his hand. Thank you, Ho, for everything. He felt something warm spread through his chest, something he had not felt in years, something that might have been hope. Lyra stirred and opened her eyes. When she saw her sister awake and alert, she let out a cry of joy and threw her arms around Neva, sobbing into her shoulder. I thought I lost you, Lyra gasped. I thought I was going to be alone. Never, Neva promised. I will never leave you. Ho stood quietly and moved toward the door to give them privacy, but Lyra's voice stopped him. Wait. He turned back. Lyra was looking at him with an expression he had never seen before. The suspicion was gone. The hatred was gone. In their place was something new. Thank you, she said. The words seemed to cost her great effort, but they were sincere. You saved her life. I will not forget. You do not owe me anything. Yes, I do. She stood and walked toward him, stopping just an arm's length away. I have been wrong about you, about humans, about everything. I was raised to hate your kind, but you are not what I expected. She took a deep breath. I am sorry for all the cruel things I said, for the way I treated you. You deserved better. Ho felt his eyes sting with unexpected tears. We all deserve better. That is the point. Lyra nodded slowly. Then, hesitantly, she reached out and pulled him into a hug. It was awkward. Neither of them knew quite how to hold the other, but it was real. It was a bridge between two worlds that had been at war. When they separated, Neva was watching them with a smile. I knew it, she said weakly. I knew she would come around eventually. Lyra laughed. It was a beautiful sound, surprising and bright. Do not get used to it. I am still the stern older sister. Of course you are. Ho smiled at them both. For a moment, he forgot about Admiral. He forgot about the deadline and the threats and the uncertain future. For a moment, there was only this. 3 people who had found each other in the darkness. 3 broken souls learning to heal together. The deadline was almost here. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers. But for now, they had this victory. Neva was alive. The walls between them had finally crumbled. Whatever came next, they would face it as one. And somehow, that made all the difference. The 7th day arrived with cold silence. Ho stood by the window of his apartment, watching the stars. Neva was recovering well, able to sit up and eat solid food now. Lyra had barely left her side. They had 1 more hour before Admiral's deadline expired. We could run, Neva suggested from the bedroom doorway. Lyra stood behind her, supporting her weight. Steal a shuttle, disappear into the outer systems. The coalition controls everything, Ho replied without turning around. We would not get far. Then what do we do? Ho had spent the past 3 days thinking about exactly that question. He had considered every option. Surrender, flight, negotiation. None of them worked, held all the power. Except perhaps one thing. The Admiral wants information, Ho said slowly. He believes you know secrets that could help the coalition defeat the Loyalists. Lyra's voice was bitter. We know nothing. We were princesses, not generals. Our father kept military matters away from us. I believe you, but does not. Ho finally turned to face them. What if we gave him something better than military information? What if we gave him peace? Both sisters stared at him in confusion. The Loyalists are gathering because they have nothing left to lose, Ho continued. There is destroyed. Their leaders are dead or captured. They believe the coalition will hunt them down regardless of what they do, so they prepare to fight, to die with honor. He stepped closer to the sisters. But what if there was another option? What if the daughters of Emperor offered them a different path, a path to survival? Lyra shook her head. You want us to surrender our people? No, I want you to save them. Ho's eyes were intense. The loyalists follow you because of your bloodline. You represent everything they lost. If you called for peace, if you offered to negotiate on their behalf, they might listen. And why would the coalition accept such negotiations? Neva asked. Because it would end the war completely. No more fighting. No more human lives lost. Wants victory, and this would give him total victory without spending another soldier. Lyra was silent for a long moment. Her mind worked through the implications. It would also make us traitors. Our own people would hate us for surrendering. Some might, others might thank you for giving them a future. Ho held her gaze. The war is over, Lyra. Your empire cannot win. The only question is how many more will die before everyone accepts that truth. And what happens to us after, once we are no longer useful? Ho had thought about this too. I will make that part of the agreement, your safety guaranteed, your freedom protected. If once his peace, he pays our price. Neva touched her sister's arm. Lyra, he is right. I do not want any more of our people to die. Not for pride, not for honor, not for anything. Lyra's face was torn with conflict. Everything she had been taught, everything she had believed, told her that surrender was the greatest shame. Her father would have chosen death before dishonor. But her father was dead, and she was tired of death. If we do this, she said slowly, we do it together, all three of us. I will not stand before the coalition alone. You will not have to, Ho promised. 1 hour later, they stood in Admiral's office. The Admiral looked surprised to see all three of them. His eyes narrowed with suspicion when Ho explained their proposal. A peace negotiation with loyalists, laughed harshly. Those fanatics would rather die than surrender. They would rather die than be slaughtered, Lyra corrected, her voice steady despite her nerves. Give them another option and many will choose life. I know my people, Admiral, better than your intelligence reports ever could. And why should I trust you? You are the enemy. I was the enemy, Lyra said. Now I am simply someone who wants the dying to stop. You can continue your war, send more ships, more soldiers. Eventually you will crush the loyalists. But how many humans will die in the process? How long will it take? A year? 2? 10? She stepped forward, meeting eyes without fear. Or you can let us try peace. If it fails, you lose nothing. If it succeeds, you become the man who ended the greatest war in human history without firing another shot. Your name will be remembered forever. Was a political creature. He understood ambition and legacy. Lyra could see the calculation behind his eyes as he weighed the possibilities. What do you want in return? He asked finally. Our freedom, Ho answered. All three of us. No more threats, no more surveillance, no more deadlines. We work as willing partners or not at all. That is all. That is everything. The Admiral considered for a long moment. Then, slowly, a smile spread across his face. It was not a kind smile, but it was accepting. Very well, Lieutenant. You have your deal. But know this, if this fails, if the princesses betray us, I will hold you personally responsible. I understand. They left the office with their heads held high. In the corridor outside, Neva let out a breath she had been holding. I cannot believe that worked. It almost did not, Lyra admitted. My hands are still shaking. Ho smiled at them both. You were both magnificent like true leaders. The negotiations took months. Ho stood beside the princesses as they broadcast messages to scattered fleets. He watched Lyra speak with fire and passion, calling her people home. He saw Neva's gentle words soothing fears and answering questions. Not all the loyalists accepted the offer. Some chose to fight to the end, and their battles were recorded in the sad history of the war. But many others came forward. Thousands of soldiers laid down their weapons. Families were reunited. Children were saved from growing up in endless conflict. The peace treaty was signed on a neutral station, far from both human and space. Lyra and Neva signed on behalf of the remnant empire. Admiral signed for the coalition. Ho stood behind the princesses, watching history unfold. When it was over, the three of them returned to a small ship Ho had purchased with his savings. It was nothing fancy, just big enough for 3 people to live comfortably. "Where will we go?" Neva asked as they left the station behind. "Anywhere," Ho replied. "Everywhere. The galaxy is big. We can explore it together." Lyra sat in the co-pilot seat beside him. She looked at the stars spreading out before them, endless and full of possibility. "Together," she repeated softly. "I like the sound of that." Ho turned to look at her. In the months of negotiation, something had grown between them, something neither of them had expected or planned. It was not love, not yet, but it was the beginning of something that could become love. "Whatever happens next," he said, "we face it as family." Neva came up behind them and wrapped her arms around both their shoulders. "Family, yes, I think that is exactly what we are." The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving the station and the war and the past behind. Ahead lay unknown worlds and new adventures. There would be challenges. There would be difficulties. Old prejudices would not disappear overnight. But they had each other. A human who had found redemption through compassion, 2 princesses who had found freedom through trust, 3 souls who had been enemies and had become something far more precious. In a universe full of hatred and war, they had chosen hope. In a galaxy that expected cruelty, they had offered kindness. And in doing so, they had proven that the greatest strength was not the ability to destroy, but the courage to heal. The stars welcomed them home. Not to any planet or station, but to each other. And that was enough. That was everything.